During his appearance on a Sunday talk show, Republican vice presidential candidate JD Vance said that if former President Trump is elected in November and a national abortion ban reached the White House, President Trump would veto it. Speaking on Meet the Press, the Catholic senator from Ohio added Donald Trump wants to end the culture war on this particular topic. California wants to have a different abortion policy than Ohio. Then California needs to respect Ohio, and Ohio has to respect California. The line of questioning came in response to earlier statements from Senator Lindsey Graham advocating for a national ban. In 2022, the Supreme Court eliminated the constitutional so-called right to an abortion with the Dobbs decision. And joining us now is Dr. Ken Craycraft, professor of Moral Theology at Mount St. Mary's Seminary in Cincinnati, Ohio. He is also the author of the book Citizens Yet Strangers, Living Authentically Catholic in a Divided America. Dr. Craycraft, always good to see you. Thank you so much for coming back on. A lot to get to, but first, let's talk more about the recent interview with JD Vance. He also said, as we mentioned, that he and Trump wanted to end their culture war on abortion. Your thoughts on that? Is that realistic, and is abortion simply a culture war issue?
Yeah, I don't think this is the way to end the culture war. I think this is the way to further foment the culture war. If we want to end the culture war on abortion, we have to do something that is national in scope, not prescind from national questions. So I think what former President Trump and Senator JD Vance are advocating now is going to escalate, not de-escalate, the culture war over abortion. And you're right, it is a culture war issue. And I think that even aside from any kind of legislation, and I'm not even sure what national legislation would look like, we Catholics have to understand that this is a hearts and mind issue before it's a legal one. Yes, the legal aspect is important. Yes, the political aspect is important. But we need leadership, and somebody like JD Vance, who is a practicing Catholic, needs to provide that leadership, and it's very disappointing that so far in this campaign he's not doing that.
Yeah, Ken, what's your overall take on how the Trump-Vance team is handling the abortion issue right now?
I think that they're trying to win votes by softening their stand on abortion, but that's not going to work because they're not going to get any Democrat votes anyway, or swing votes that are thinking Democrat anyway. And what they're going to do is lose Republican votes. So I don't think this is a winning issue for them. They think it is, but I don't think it is. In fact, as a matter of fact, I think it's it's going to result in them getting less votes, and it's going to result in Catholics looking either at writing candidates or third-party alternatives to the two major parties. So if their strategy in this revised abortion stand, both by President Trump and Senator Vance, is to win votes, Catholic votes, conservative Christian votes, I don't think it's going to work. In fact, I think they're going to lose votes, and they're not going to pick up net votes from the other side because those people are not going to vote for Trump and Vance anyway. So I think it's a losing strategy. In addition, it's a losing political strategy, in addition to being a disappointing moral statement from both former President Trump and Senator Vance.
Yeah, and quickly before we run out of time, let's talk about the other side now. Vice President Harris and Tim Walz, they're pretty clear on where they stand when it comes to abortion. In fact, I know you wrote an article for First Things magazine and wrote, quote, a Harris-Walz presidency would be noteworthy, not simply for their extremity of their abortion and gender policies, but also for the fanatical zealousness with which they pursue them. Talk to us more about that and remind us on their stance on abortion.
Yeah, well, Vice President Harris has said that she wants to so-called codify Roe v. Wade as a national policy, as a national legislative measure, that it would reintroduce and reaffirm what Roe v. Wade stood for before it was overturned. And she has a ready ally in Governor Walz because, as governor of Minnesota, he has instituted the most extreme abortion laws of any state in the country, including allowing infanticide for botched abortions. They actually changed the legislation, which he signed, saying that a physician does not have to take care of the life of a child born as a result of a botched abortion, but only has to care for it, which is another way of saying the child can be allowed to die by starvation or by exposure, which is a gruesome policy, but that's the policy in Minnesota. And of course, that's the policy that Governor Walz, if he becomes vice president, would advocate as vice president. And again, he would have a ready ally in his running mate, Vice President Harris, because she has made it very clear that that's her policy as well. A vigorous national policy which would so-called reinstate Roe v. Wade or codify Roe v. Wade. And so we have, on the one hand, we have extremists who are very enthusiastic and energetic about abortion, and on the other side we have two candidates who are cool about abortion and who really seem to want to wash their hands of it. And that really is the way that it's setting up this election cycle.
Ken, that being said, what advice would you give us Catholic voters as we head into this election?
I think in this election, we have to do two things. First of all, as I said earlier, we have to be consistent witnesses to the protection of unborn life and life generally. But secondly, we have to start thinking about whether we can be chained to a two-party system as Catholic voters. There are alternatives out there. To be sure, they're small, and to be sure they're fledgling, but we Catholics have to declare to both parties that we're not going to be chained to a two-party system if neither of those parties represents the values that we hold as Catholics, especially when it comes to preserving life. And I think this election might be a time for Catholics to send a signal that we're not going to be chained to a two-party system, but rather going to express our own voice about what we believe are the true values that are consistent with Catholic moral theology and Catholic witness.
Dr. Craycraft, always good to be with you. Thank you so much for weighing in. God bless.
Thank you.